At the start of every single year, I think it's important to provide what we believe is going to be the trends that shape the next 12 months of AI. 2025 was a year of huge improvement in what AI can actually deliver for people. However, I think expectations are still outstripping reality. 2026 is going to be another year of huge progression, and in today's episode, we're going to talk about the top trends that are going to shape the world of AI this year. This is In the Loop with Jack Horton. I hope you enjoy the show. So we're actually 21 days into January. I was going to take a couple of weeks off over Christmas to have a break. Then was moving house, lost a bunch of things, and even today where I'm actually recording, I've still not got the, let's say, the studio, so to speak, set up. The actual SD cards are somewhere. I'm still living in boxes from the move. So I'm going to apologize me wearing a silly headset because actually it was probably the best microphone I could possibly get, I think. Hopefully we're going to use an AI software to make it sound as good as we possibly can. So now, anyway, moving on to trend number one, which I'm going to describe in a couple of words, which is differentiation for companies. So ultimately right now, differentiation 12 months ago in the AI space used to look a lot different to what it looks like today. Because fundamentally, the way users interact with AI is just converging on the exact same pattern everywhere, really. Every company building an AI product is essentially a chatbot. You type something, the AI responds. There's maybe interactive elements that pop up and appear. You've got Amazon's ad management software is the exact same as Google's, and every single interface just starts to look quite similar, with unique parts of branding and colors and vibe as well. But mostly it's a chat interface. And it makes sense. There's over 1.5 billion people using AI every single day right now. And that expectation is transferred to every product. So everyone naturally is becoming a chatbot. And it's therefore quite difficult as organizations, as people to go, what is it that makes this company unique then? If everyone looks the same and it's an agent doing tasks for people, what makes them, unique? So what's happening is really interesting questions being posed, which is, okay, therefore, what isn't differentiation? That's going to be a big question of this year. My belief is it's not the interface anymore. So 12 months ago, strategically, companies building new chat interfaces and experiences, that was strategic, clever work. Now it's just not. Again, because building better chat interfaces is really important, but doesn't differentiate anybody. Everyone has to be solving that exact same problem the exact same way. Everyone has it, every user expects it, so it becomes table stakes. So therefore, it raises an interesting question. If the chat interface or the interface layer that used to be for companies, a place that offered massive differentiation, big companies like, let's say, Salesforce or HubSpot, have ecosystems and training programs and certificates for becoming a master at my software. They used to literally monetize friction of having lots of things and features on a page, because a salesperson could easily point at it and say, look, we do everything. And it doesn't matter that you don't know how, because we've got big training programs to make you an expert. So that used to be differentiation, because it used to look complex. Whereas now everything is a chat interface and an agent orchestrates and just takes all those actions. So therefore it's a really interesting one, because the question becomes, where does competitive advantage therefore come from? And this is where I'm going to go to trend number two, which is where companies are going to start investing effort. So trend two broadly is where companies are redirecting their efforts towards what let's describe as their unique intelligence. So what do I mean by intelligence? So the intelligence is about unique ways of solving customer problems in your specific domain. So for example, if you're building, let's say, for example, a company that is selling sales software, which is maybe they're going to expose unique intelligence, which is the ability to, say, predict which deals might close based on 5 years of deal history, maybe showing patterns of historic alternatives and competitors and behaviors from salespeople that have led to more deals being won or less deals. And that being exposed to an agent and a user. So that's intelligence. So if it's a logistics platform, so it helps people get packages from A to Z, Maybe they can analyze millions of shipments across every region in the world and then expose that to the customer through AI. Or if you're a customer support platform, for example, it's understanding exactly which issues really need human intervention based on historic data. So that's what we mean by intelligence. And that's where companies, we believe, over this next period is going to be tripling down on. Because if they expose more and more and more of that, that is extremely unique and something no one else has, rather than spending all that time on the chat interface. It's just about exposing that value to customers and users. So yeah, I think that's going to be a massive trend of companies trying to expose that very unique intelligence rather than think through long user journeys and experiences anymore, because ultimately the chat interface all looks the same. It's the outcomes an agent can deliver for a person and how clever those outcomes are. That is what delivers value in the future. Anyway, I'm going to go to trend number 3. Trend number 3 is that AI conversations are about to become immensely visual. So yeah, AI conversations are moving from like text-based to really visual interactive experiences. So you're seeing this with ChatGPT. So OpenAI and ChatGPT released integrations into Spotify, Expedia, Instacart, and essentially the Spotify playlist renders in a conversation. Or you can do learning through the big learning platforms straight into ChatGPT, and their platform appears inside the chat interface. So what's becoming a trend really is that the chat interface wants to render beautiful user interface components from different platforms, because fundamentally, again, the more outcomes an agent can deliver, the more valuable it is. And so for all companies, they want more UI components to deliver more outcomes in their chat. Because if you think about, let's say, I want to select a playlist, that might have taken a conversation that lasted 10 minutes. Suddenly, a user interface visual component appears in the chat, and you just select your playlist and press go. So you want to book a flight. Instead of reading a description of flight information, you just have a comparison of flights in a visual format that has ticks and crosses, for example, just as you would get on a normal website that's straight from ChatGPT or straight from a conversation. So you can bet £1 million that Claude is about to do the same, Microsoft, Apple, when they actually get their act together. A slightly technical diversion here is that the Model Context Protocol, so MCP protocol, so MCP is actually expanding what it enables you to do. So actually you can provide UI components inside of that very soon, which means that as one vendor to another or an organization, you can then, let's say you're a Maps software, you can not just put your Maps information into an MCP, you can put your Maps user interfaces into an MCP. And then other platforms might be able to surface that up through a conversation. So yeah, that's the 3 trends on, let's describe it as kind of the interface part. So where the AI interface is changing. I want to make a change of direction and move on to, I guess, trends around how agents are built. So trend number 4 of this list, I think agent reasoning is going to start to really squeeze and compete rigid workflows or even clever workflows from the likes of Zapier, NAN, Lindy. So the very big popular platforms for AI automation. And I think really there's a big debate going on online all the time, which is you see a lot of people sharing their great NAN workflow that saved me 3,000 hours of time. People see that, they play with it, and it works. And it makes complete sense. And for many tasks, it makes a lot of sense to use that. But as a result, people assume that's the way agents should be built and led. And that's where the fundamental debate comes in. And you've got the likes of LangChain CEO who really complain that OpenAI released yet another workflow builder. You've got Anthropic complaining about the exact same because they don't believe workflows are the future. And so a lot of companies default to workflows because they feel like they're able to be in control. So I know this agent is going to do this, then it's going to do that. But often when it comes to real world complexity for, let's say, deploying workflows, they're going to break because a human person wants to go in hundreds of different directions. And that's where agents who can reason and create a plan, like you might see on Claude, so it creates a specific plan, it asks itself questions, it ticks itself off on a plan, and it uses information to shape that plan. That's what actually a workflow is doing, but you're trying to build a workflow and try and plan for hundreds of scenarios, whereas an agent can do that and change it on the fly. So yeah, Zapier, NAN, and tools like that, I definitely feel attractive because, you can drag and drop things, you can select arrows, you can define logic for an agent must do this and then that. you can literally see what's going to happen. So yeah, as I said, but life, tasks, and humans just don't like following that sequence of steps. So if I wanted to do a workflow, I might go and set a step for saying check for duplicates, and if found an issue, refund them. Then check cancellations, and if you find an issue, retry. Check the payments, but if there's an invalid prompt for update, but the duplicate charge was actually an upgrade, the cancellation would then fail because there's a pending charge. So everything becomes interconnected. The workflow can't handle that level of interconnectedness and chaos. It becomes very difficult. Whereas agent reasoning can assess a full situation, have a conversation with the user, identify the 3 issues, and know that they're related because it is able to analyze more information and create a plan. And again, it can change its plan and then check in with the user to say, is this good or bad? So yeah, I think a massive trend will be moving towards agent reasoning because people love Claude Code and how powerful it is and how effective it is. And it's something we're at Mindset tripling down on because ultimately we see the value in that. It's where we're just releasing new technology where it can look over millions of rows of data and create a plan for how to click into very complex questions and find the right data to help it answer those questions and give real value to users. So trend 5 is again within the theme of how agents are built, and specifically this theme is how I think building agents is going to move to more conversational interfaces, and I think that's what's going to get widespread adoption. So I think it's going to move from quite technical configuration or even workflows or even code to configuration via conversations. Describe what the agent should do, and the system should just generate the configuration. And this might expand who builds agents from maybe 2% of people and knowledge workers to, 50%, 60%. Because right now, building an agent requires quite a few technical skills and thinking a lot of the time, even if you try and simplify it. Zapier and other similar tools make you think like a programmer. You have to understand variables and data types and condition logic and error handling. And code-first approach requires actual programming. And the issue there is that an agent's very rarely one and done. You're then going to have to maintain it and improve it and change it. So yeah, what I think is going to start emerging for agent building is very conversational studio interfaces. It's something we're actually about to start launching as a V2 of our agent building. Google AI Studio is now moving towards that, where you can configure these experiences through pretty minimal interface, really. So soon you'll be able to say, I just want an agent that monitors support tickets, figures out, which ones are urgent and just routes them to the right person. And if a ticket sits there for more than 24 hours, escalate it. Because that's how we think in terms of instructions. And the system should just know how to do that and build that. Trend 6. I think agent testing is about to become a major area of focus for all companies. Because the problem often isn't AI capability, and this is why people gravitate, we think, to workflows. The problem is confidence. Confidence that agents are going to make good decisions repeatedly in scenarios that actually kind of matter. Large-scale AI-led training and testing is going to be what builds that confidence. Because traditional, say, software testing of a feature doesn't work. Agent testing is quite different because behavior isn't, let's say, deterministic. Give an agent a support query and it might handle it in 5 ways over 5 separate occasions, even though it should be consistent. Multiple approaches could all be correct, but slightly different, which makes us all as humans feel quite nervous. It's like a human. And so the answer really for us is, I think, at Mindset, and what we're going to expect us to see everywhere in the world very soon, which is often ahead of things by, 3 to 7 months, is scenario-based testing at massive scale using AI to evaluate everything. So you describe the scenarios that represent real scenarios or situations, define success criteria based on judgment, and use AI to test itself and test AI. And I think this is all going to connect to ROI as well, because I think people are going to move from, say, vibes of AI deployments to real ROI and impact and performance. So that's how agents are built as a theme set. I think let's move on now to another theme, which is how work changes as a result of all of this. And as part of this, let's go on to trend 7, which is, I think, knowledge work is going to start shifting from doing to now managing. Because all of these things that we're going to start to see is going to simplify agent creation, but make it more powerful. Because workflows and complex interfaces is not what's going to deliver wide scale, let's say, adoption amongst a workforce, especially in knowledge work. So I think all of these things are going to start culminating in knowledge workers moving from, say, 1 or 2% or 8% of people working really fast to, let's say, 50, 60, 70%. You're starting to see this now with Anthropic launching Claude Cowork, which is essentially trying to give the experience of Claude code to non-technical people, because of the number of non-technical people using Claude Code. Again, trying to build and provide an agent-led experience with a series of tools like I was describing, no workflows, and making it really simple to manage for them. So I think knowledge work is going to shift from doing tasks to managing agents, and therefore testing frameworks and simplicity is going to be really important. Within this theme, I think trend 8 is going to be the year of agent managers as a result. And the reason I say agent management, not full autonomy, is because I don't think full autonomy is close. I think we're quite a while away from that. So I think that's why agents are so powerful versus, say, a workflow, because an agent will do a series of tasks and then check in with you, ask the user to make that judgment call, make strategic decisions. But the agent will start to increasingly handle more and more of the execution, because it's simpler just to provide agents tools and agents do reasoning. So yeah, I think this is why it's going to be so powerful. A lot of these trends we've discussed are going to culminate in some of these things, because ultimately human judgment is going to be still really important, but agents being able to do powerful things with powerful reasoning is going to be widespread across many different products, not just ChatGPT and Claude. Something that we're providing all of our customers, for example, the ability to have reasoning agents and the ability to run large-scale testing on your agents and AI experiences. Another big theme I think we're going to start to see as trend 9 is forward-deployed vibe coding. So we shouldn't actually use the word vibe coding, because it almost, let's say, lowers the perceived value of using AI as a coding tool. But anyway, there's a new role that's emerging more and more, which is people in departments who combine domain expertise with AI building capabilities, essentially. So not necessarily professional engineers, but domain experts who can build solutions to problems. So these people know really how to use AI tools, and they're domain experts, and they forward deploy them to solve big problems and not get it to, let's say, full production or ready for everyone to work on or to deploy to customers or launch to customers. What we are seeing is them able to solve big knotty problems because maybe they're expert coders and they have domain expertise, or they're just good at AI tools and have fantastic AI and domain expertise. And the reason domain expertise is important is ultimately they have a lot of context to make good judgment calls and solve big problems for companies. And that could be ideas for new customer products. It could be solving big problems for teams, and essentially building tools and systems using AI, and then eventually handing it over to the rest of the team. So these are the trends that we think will define AI in 2026. The interface is experiencing the biggest revolution since command line interfaces. Companies will be investing more and more in their own data to provide as unique intelligence to their users and customers. And ultimately, you'll see more deployments than ever throughout 2026. So that's it for this week in this episode. I hope you found it useful. Next week, we'll have a proper microphone, camera, and setup. But yeah, we'll see you next week.